Welcome back, guys. In this video we will talk about web documents. There are three types of web documents which we will talk about. So let's get started. So whenever a client sends a request to the server returns the web page to the client. So these web pages are web documents. Whatever server is returning to the client is web document. So web documents can be divided in three categories: static, dynamic, and active. And these are on the basis of time. The content of the documents are determined. So web documents are divided into three categories: static web document, dynamic web document, and active web document. On the basis of the time, the content of the documents are determined. How is the content determined? Based on time. These are divided into three parts. So let's start with dynamic documents. Static web documents. So static means fixed documents. Our documents are fixed. These has been already created and then stored in the server. So these are fixed, already created, and stored in the web server. So now when a client will send a request for a static web document to the server, then server will simply return that static document. See in this diagram. So we can see that client is sending a request to the server and server is simply returning the static web document. So this was about static document. And there is one more thing, that contents of the file are determined in the starting. So as we say that these have been already created, so the content of the document is fixed now. Content is now fixed and it was determined in the starting. Plus determined in the starting. And these web pages, these static web documents, these can be made using different languages like HTML, XML, XSS, XSL, and etc. So this was about static web document. So now moving on to dynamic web document. So what is dynamic web document? It is created by server whenever browsers request the document. So in static, the document was already created, but in dynamic, when the request is sent to the server, at that moment, the web page is created or document is created. There is our client, there is our server. Now request has been sent to the server. After receiving the request, server will run an application program. Program is run and a page is generated. Now this generated page will be returned to the client. Okay. So created by web server whenever browser requests the document. Or whose browser or client. On request arrival, server runs an application program. Server ने application program को run करा, which creates dynamic document. This is a dynamic document. This document. So this was created. Each document may vary. See, now as a client is sending this request for the dynamic document, similarly it may send other requests also for the dynamic document. So each time this program is running, there will be some other output. Output will not be same each time. It will differ. So that's why it is saying that documents may vary. This dynamic document will always vary. Not always, but it may vary. So example, retrieval of time and date. So when a client is most of the time retrieving the date and time, so in those cases a program is run and a dynamic document is written, because date and time vary from moment to moment, they are not fixed. So there are several ways to create dynamic web documents. So in this we will study about two of them. So first is common gateway interface. So in common gateway interface, this is a technology which creates and handles dynamic document. So here is our client, here is our server. So client is sending a request to this program, to the server. Now CGI will handle this request and run a program and then return the dynamic document. Okay. So what is CGI? Common gateway interface. It will treat all the requests equally. Common gateway interface. Interface means variables. It is related to variables because there is dynamic document, so it will vary. Scripting technologies. In common gateway interface, we had some disadvantages also, because each time it is not necessary that the information will vary, but it was always running a new program all the time. Complete program it was running again and again, so it was creating lot of inefficiency. So to handle this, we started using scripting technologies. It was built to conquer the disadvantage of CGI. In CGI, every time request came, a program was run and then new dynamic document was written. But in CGI, but in scripting technologies, suppose there is a page. In this page, some of the part is fixed, and rest of the part is the part which is run, which we can run, which will create the dynamic part of this document, which will vary. The information in this run part will vary. So to achieve this, we can use PHP, which is used commonly. It is hypertext processor and it uses Perl languages. Okay. So in scripting technologies, what is happening? We fixed other parts of the document. Let's say this part is fixed. Here is some text written and this has been fixed now. But a part of document is now run and that information will only vary. As we can even see in this diagram, a request is sent to the client. Run the script inside the HTML document. So by HTML, we can know that now the document is fixed. Rest of the document is fixed. And a particular script is run. So now we can achieve this dynamic document using scripting technologies. So this we can understand even with the help of this example. So what does this example says? See, assume we need to retrieve a list of spare parts, their availability and prices for specific car brand. So we need to retrieve some information like list of spare parts. Availability, their availability. And specific car brand, prices. So in these required information, each time when the client will ask for the web page, it is not necessary that all the information will vary. So there can be a possibility that some of the information will remain same throughout. Let's read it further. Although the availability and prices may vary, okay, So it is saying that availability and prices may vary, but the name, description, and the picture of the parts are fixed. Okay, so spare parts list and other things will remain fixed. If we use CGI, the program must create an entire document each time. So if we are using the CGI, this one, then it will create a document each time whenever the request is sent to the server. But if we are using the scripting technologies, then it can fix other parts which will remain same throughout and vary the other parts, other information it can vary. So in this way, it can be better than the CGI. Now moving further, let's move on to the third type of document, which are active documents. So what are active documents? When program is run at client side. So here is our client, here is the server. Client is sending a request to the server and server in return sends a web page. But this web page will now be runnable. In the such kind of pages are active web pages, active web documents. Example, client wants to run a program that creates animated graphics. So in this case, client will send a request to the server will return the request with a web page, and now client can run this program that will create animations. Okay, so these are active web documents, and we can get these active web documents using Java applets and JavaScripts. There are other ways also, but now we will talk about these two only. So what are Java applets? This is one of the way to create active documents. Okay, applet is a program written in Java on the server. So applet is a program. So we will write a program in Java applet that will be used by the server. And we can even look at this. There is a client, here is a server. Now client is sending a request. So in return, what is server doing? Server is returning a applet to the client. So now the client can run this applet and get the desired result. So in this way, Java applets can be used. Similarly, we can use JavaScript. Idea of script is to in dynamic documents can also be used for active documents. So what we were doing in dynamic documents, in scripting technologies, we can use same method for active documents also, and JavaScript is one of the way to do that. Idea of script in dynamic documents can also be used for active documents. So in dynamic documents, what were these doing? Scripting technologies were running only a part of the page. So when the server will return the page to the client, so at that time client can run the part which it wants to run, and that will be helpful for active documents, that will serve the purpose of the active documents. If the active part of the document is small, it can be written in scripting technologies, as we have seen this. We have discussed about scripting technologies earlier also. So in scripting languages, we can use and write them if the active part of the document is small, like it's only a GIF or anything. So in image also, it is very easy to understand it. There is a client, and there is a server. A request has been made to the server, and in return, the server has returned a JavaScript to the client. Now client can run the JavaScript to get the desired result. So these were the two ways to get the active documents, active web documents. Thank you. This was all about this video.